Alright, so currently trying to work out the handbrake because this isn't roughly anywhere near the proportions of a Beetle, i.e. all the controls and everything way much further to the rear. It looks pretty tatty, the amount of primer I've got all over it. So anyway, yeah, so seats being so far back, as you can see, the seat is actually pretty much on the rear torsion beam at the back. So I've had to bring the handbrake to the rear, as well as the gear stick, which will eventually be sighted there. Now, because it's so low in comparison to a normal Beetle tunnel, I don't really have much of an option to keep the handbrake central. Also, because the seats end up so close together, I can't actually fit the handbrake between them because I've actually used these plastic moulded seats, not the typical ones which you normally find on a UVA. So I've had not much really much choice in that the gear change lever and handbrake need to be side by side. Otherwise you have to get out the seat to undo the handbrake. So anyway, right, so the first problem is obviously I'm using a retrofit type handbrake, bought online, mounted on the brackets on the side rails. So I'm going to have to bring the cables up, but I'm going to have to bring them to one side of the actual central section, which, as you can see, it's quite wide, but I need to get all the rest of the controls through it. So what I've actually done is just temporarily made up a sort of test piece, a threaded rod which will travel from the handbrake to the rear, pick up the two handbrake cables. This is all just a mock-up, and I'll end up making something a little bit prettier at the end. And then what that follows through is into a tab I've welded in here. Now the central hole I'll just use, I don't know whether I will use it in the long term, but just as a guide to keep everything central, stop it all flapping around, because there isn't actually a lot of room between this bracket and the tube here. But I may well use it and just take the corners off the tab very slightly. Now what my idea is that I will buy some extra handbrake cable tubes, if I can just buy the tubes alone, and if not I have to buy the whole lot and just thin half of it. So what I've got at the rear, if you can see below, if I go down here, the rear of the horns where they've been cut off, you can see I've still got the two tubes from the handbrake. I know they look like I can't get them, but this is only a piece of angle and it's to the side. So in effect I need a ferrule to plug into that tube, and then to bring the handbrake sleeves out and around. Now obviously this is all biased to one side, so in effect I've got one from here, I've got to try and curve gently to here, and the other one from there, which will be less of a curve. Now what I've done in this bracket is I've drilled the two holes identical to the tube dimensions in the horns. So 2 bits of tube and 4 matching ferrules. Now I'm hoping that will do it. The function is quite simple. Everyone knows how a handbrake works. Now I'll set this up so it's further forwards. Once I bring them through, I'm actually going to have to cut the cables because they'll be way too long, and use some of the shortening kit type adjusters that you can clip onto the cable as needed. Now I've looked here, from between there to the back of the handbrake, probably about 200mm. So I can actually use that as adjustment, as well as the adjustment in the handbrake cable ends that punch into the bracket there. So overall, yeah, quite happy. Still a long way to go, but I feel like I'm getting somewhere. Yeah.